In the early light of the tropical rainforest, the undergrowth begins to move. Long tails rise above the leaf litter, held upright like signals, as a line of animals fan out across the ground. Noses probe the soil, claws rake through debris, and soft calls pass between them. This is not a chance gathering. It is a coordinated group on the move. These are Coatis, members of the raccoon family, a group better known for solitary, nocturnal lives. Yet Coatis have abandoned that strategy almost entirely. Instead, they live in structured bands more reminiscent of primates than raccoons. In this video, we'll explore how and why that happened, and what Coatis reveal about the flexibility of carnivoran behavior. If you'd like to learn more, check out the document in the description with research papers and image credits. Coatis belong to the family Procyonidae, a small group of carnivorans only found in the Americas. While few people are familiar with the family name, many at least recognize raccoons. But the family is more diverse and more ecologically varied than most people realize. The earliest diverging member of this family is the kinkajou, a highly arboreal, nocturnal mammal that feeds mostly on fruit. With large eyes, a prehensile tail, and a largely solitary lifestyle, kinkajous are specialized for life in the forest canopy. From there, the family splits into two main lineages. The first of these includes the raccoons and ringtails. Both are adaptable generalists that, despite their intelligence and dexterity, remain mostly solitary and often nocturnal. The three species of raccoons are likely more familiar to most people, but the two ringtails are recognizable by their long, boldly striped tails. The other lineage includes the olingos and coatis. The four species of olingos are nocturnal and arboreal, like the rest of their family. But it is when we turn to the coatis that this pattern is broken. Coatis are roughly the size of a large house cat, but have much longer snouts and tails. They are found across the Americas, occupying forests, woodlands, and forest edges at a wide range of elevations, from the southwestern United States through Central America and much of South America. They are instantly recognizable by their long, flexible snouts and powerful forelimbs, and their long tails are often held upright as they move through dense vegetation. Unlike most of their relatives, coatis are active by day and spend much of their time on the ground, foraging deliberately through leaf litter and soil. They are sometimes also referred to as coatimundis. While you might expect coati to be a shortening of this term, that isn't actually the case. In the Tupian languages of Brazil, coatimundi means lone coati, and was specifically used to refer to a coati by itself, typically a male that has been forced out of its family group. Over time, however, the term has come to be used interchangeably with coati to refer to the animals in general. Historically, four species of coatis have been recognized, traditionally grouped into two genera, Nasua and Nasuela. Genetic evidence now suggests that Nasuela is actually nested within Nasua. In other words, the two should be merged into a single genus. However, while this is slowly changing, many researchers still treat the mountain coatis as a separate group. The two species placed in Nasua are the white-nosed coati and the South American coati. The white-nosed coati ranges from southern United States through Mexico and much of Central America, while the South American coati is widespread across tropical and subtropical parts of South America. The species traditionally included in Nasuela are sometimes known as the mountain coatis. These include the western mountain coati, found in the cloud forests of Colombia and Ecuador, and the eastern mountain coati, from the Venezuelan Andes. Their ranges are much more restricted than the lowland coatis. There's also been debate about whether the eastern and western mountain coatis represent distinct species or variants of the same lineage, and some genetic studies suggest they may not be clearly separate. Despite the many confusions surrounding its family tree, what truly defines a coati is the way it lives, not its appearance or the number of recognized species. In many carnivorans, life is a solitary affair. Individuals meet others of their species only to mate and sometimes raise offspring. Bears, jaguars, foxes, weasels, raccoons, these are all largely solo hunters. There are exceptions, of course, lions and wolves being two of the most well known. But by and large, carnivorans prefer their own company. Coatis take a very different approach to either of these strategies. Females are highly social, but the males are not. For most of the year, coatis live in stable social bands made up of adult females and their offspring. These groups can include anything from a handful of individuals to several dozen, moving together through the landscape as they forage. Within the band, individuals remain in constant contact, using vocalizations and body language to coordinate movement and maintain cohesion. Adult males follow a very different path. As they reach sexual maturity, males become increasingly aggressive, and their presence within the group begins to pose a risk, particularly to young offspring. Infanticide has been observed in coatis, and females respond decisively. Mature males are violently expelled from the band, often through coordinated attacks by multiple females, after which they become largely solitary. It is these lone males that were traditionally referred to as coatimundis, although that distinction is no longer used. These solitary males range over much larger areas and rejoin the bands only briefly during breeding season, before being driven away once again. This split social system, cohesive female-led bands and largely solitary males, is one of the defining features of Coati life, and it raises an obvious question. Why did this arrangement evolve at all? To answer that, we'll need to look more closely at how coatis live, and then circle back to what that means for their social behavior. Most members of the raccoon family are creatures of the night. Raccoons, olingos, ringtails, and kinkajous are all primarily nocturnal, emerging after dusk to forage under the cover of darkness. Coatis are the exception. Rather than avoiding daylight, they are active almost entirely during the day, retreating to trees or sheltered resting sites at night. This shift in activity pattern has far-reaching consequences. Daylight foraging means greater visibility, not just for coatis, but for predators as well. Jaguars, pumas, large raptors, and even domestic dogs all pose a threat, particularly to juveniles. Unlike nocturnal animals that rely on darkness for concealment, coatis must operate in a world where danger is easier to see, but also harder to avoid. Being active by day also changes how coatis move through their environment. Instead of short, solitary foraging bouts, they spend long hours traveling across the forest floor, steadily searching for food. This slow, deliberate style of foraging exposes them for extended periods, making awareness and coordination especially important. Although coatis have shifted much of their activity to the ground, they remain capable climbers. Like raccoons and other relatives, coatis have double-jointed ankles, allowing them to descend head-first down trees and navigate branches with remarkable agility. Trees remain essential for resting, escape from predators, and opportunistic feeding. Coatis are omnivorous generalists, but the way they search for food is anything but random. Their diet includes insects, spiders, scorpions, small vertebrates, and fallen fruit. Unlike many of their relatives, coatis spend much of their foraging time on the ground, carefully probing leaf litter, soil, and under logs with their flexible snouts. Foraging is slow and methodical. Coatis often pause to dig, sniff, and examine potential prey, sometimes spending minutes on a single patch of the forest floor. This careful searching is highly effective, but it comes at a cost. The longer they linger in one place, the more time they spend exposed to predators. Solitary males take a very different approach. Unable to rely on cooperative foraging, they move quickly and opportunistically, feeding on whatever food can be found. They climb more frequently, range widely, and must balance feeding with avoiding predators. A very different lifestyle from that of the steady ground-based female bands. Food resources in coati habitats are patchy, but renewable. Insects and fallen fruit may be concentrated in certain areas, but they are not permanently defended. Coatis can exploit these resources more efficiently when moving together, allowing bands to cover large areas while maintaining access to multiple food patches. Life on the ground during the day comes with risks. Coatis are exposed to a wide range of predators, from stealthy cats like jaguars and pumas, to large birds of prey, snakes, and even domestic dogs near human settlements. Juveniles are especially vulnerable, and a single misstep can be fatal. To cope with these dangers, Coatis rely heavily on vigilance. Individuals in a band are rarely out of sight or earshot of each other. Constant vocalizations, raised tails, and alert postures help maintain awareness of both predators and the movements of nearby group members. By moving together, the band functions as a mobile early warning system. While one Coati investigates leaf litter or digs for insects, others can scan the surrounding areas for threats. This system can only work in the female-led bands. With multiple individuals keeping watch, mothers can focus on foraging for themselves and their young, while the risk of predation is shared among the group. Juveniles benefit especially from this collective vigilance, learning to recognize danger while still remaining within the protective fold of the band. Solitary males face a different reality. Without the support of a group, they must remain constantly alert, balancing feeding with the need to detect predators on their own. Their wide-ranging opportunistic foraging style exposes them to more risk, but also allows them to encounter multiple female groups during the breeding season, a trade-off that drives much of their solitary behavior. This combination of diurnal activity, ground-based foraging, and patchy defensible food sources means that cooperation is not optional for females, it is a matter of survival. Bands do not simply move together because they are social, they do so because it is safer, and because the coordinated effort increases the efficiency of feeding in a challenging environment. Now that we've taken the time to see how coatis live, we can return to the question we posed earlier. Why did coatis develop their split social system? Cooperative females, but solitary males. It is impossible to answer this question with complete certainty, but we can certainly make an informed conclusion based on what we know about their ecology and behavior. Female-led bands are not arbitrary. They did not evolve randomly or by chance, but as a direct response to the ecological challenges of diurnal ground-based life. Being active by day and foraging methodically across patchy, often exposed resources makes solitary life risky. Predators can spot individuals more easily, and juveniles are especially vulnerable. By moving together in cohesive groups, females and their offspring benefit from shared vigilance, early warning signals, and coordinated escape. This cooperation also allows bands to exploit scattered food patches more efficiently than a lone individual could, turning a dangerous foraging strategy into a sustainable one. Males, by contrast, do not face these same pressures. Once they reach sexual maturity, their presence increases competition for food and, more importantly, the risk to juveniles. When males are expelled from the group, they no longer need to protect juveniles and are freed from the constraints of group living. As solitary animals, they adopt a very different strategy, roaming widely, feeding opportunistically, and seeking out receptive female bands during the breeding season. This lifestyle carries its own risks, but it also offers clear advantages. By ranging over large areas, males gain access to multiple groups for mating opportunities, a strategy that only works because of the cooperative female bands. In other words, the split social system, cohesive female-led bands on one hand and solitary males on the other, is an elegant solution to the combined pressures of food distribution, predation, and reproduction. It is not a primitive or accidental behavior, but an adaptive arrangement shaped by the unique ecological niche coatis occupy. By looking at coatis in this way, we can see how flexible carnivoran behavior can be, and how evolution can produce social strategies that diverge dramatically, even from close relatives. Coatis are solitary in some ways, highly social in others, and that duality is exactly what defines their remarkable way of life. Throughout this discussion, we've been talking about coatis as a group, but remember, there are different species. And while they do share a distinctive social system, they are not all living identical lives. The four recognized species occupy very different environments, from lowland tropical forests to cool high elevation cloud forests. Most of what we know about coati behavior comes from the two widespread lowland species, the white-nosed and South American coatis. Their large populations and frequent encounters with people have made them easier to study. The mountain coatis, by contrast, are far less well known. Restricted to fragmented high-altitude habitats, they occur at lower densities and are rarely observed for long periods in the wild. Limited observations suggest that mountain coatis follow the same basic pattern: female groups and solitary adult males. But group sizes are likely smaller and behavior more variable, shaped by harsher climates and reduced food availability. In other words, coatis share a common social framework, but the way it is expressed depends on where and how they live. The same traits that allow coatis to thrive in natural forests also shape how they behave around people. Across much of their range, coatis are increasingly encountered in human-modified environments: forest edges, agricultural land, tourist sites, and even towns. These encounters are not accidental. They are a direct consequence of how coatis forage and move through the landscape. Human activity creates dense, predictable food sources. Rubbish bins, compost heaps, crops, and discarded food concentrate calories in ways rarely found in natural systems. For a species adapted to slow, ground-based foraging across patchy resources, these sites are impossible to ignore. When coatis discover them, entire bands may exploit the same location repeatedly. This behavior contrasts sharply with that of North American racoons. Raccoons are famously adept at exploiting human environments, but they do so largely as solitary nocturnal foragers. Their success depends on stealth, individual problem solving, and avoiding detection. Coatis, by contrast, are active by day and operate in groups. When they enter human spaces, they do so visibly and collectively, a natural extension of their foraging strategy rather than a new behavior. Group living changes the dynamics of human-wildlife interactions. A single coati may be cautious, but a band is bolder. Multiple individuals overwhelm food sources quickly, maintain vigilance while others feed, and respond aggressively when threatened. In tourist areas, this can lead to conflict, food theft, property damage, and occasionally defensive bites when people attempt to approach or feed them. Importantly, this behavior does not reflect greater intelligence or opportunism than other procyonids. It reflects ecological consistency. Coatis are simply applying the same cooperative foraging strategies that work in forests to a landscape reshaped by humans. The difference is that human environments amplify both the benefits and the risks of group living. These interactions also reveal the limits of coati adaptability. While bands can exploit human food sources effectively, doing so often increases exposure to vehicles, dogs, human persecution, and disease. In some areas, coatis are labeled as pests, and it is easy to see why. But it is important to remember that their behavior reflects millions of years of evolution rather than recent learning. Seen in this light, coatis in human landscapes are not anomalies. They are a case study in how a finely tuned social system responds, sometimes successfully, sometimes problematically, to rapid environmental change. At first glance, coatis look like little more than raccoons that walk in groups. But their social lives are not a curiosity, they are a solution. By shifting into daylight, adopting slow, ground-based foraging, and exploiting patchy food resources, coatis entered a niche where cooperation became essential rather than optional. The result is a social system unlike that of any other members of the raccoon family. Stable, female-led bands balanced by solitary, wide-ranging males. It is a reminder that carnivorans are not bound to a single way of life. Given the right pressures, even a family best known for solitary nocturnal animals can produce something very different. Coatis show us that behavior is as much a product of ecology as anatomy, and that evolution often reshapes social systems in ways that are subtle, flexible, and remarkably effective. I hope you enjoyed this journey into the coatis. If this video sparked your curiosity, don't let it stop here. Share it, talk about it, and keep learning. There's still so much to discover about the world's rare and remarkable species. And the more we understand, the better our chances of protecting them. Thanks for watching.